Yeah,
No.
I went there.
Okay. Then they always need. I just saw their advertisement
No,
because they always need people.
literally, they told me we cannot work with former Guantanamo detainee. We're not allowed.
Oh
Literally.
no. Okay, you guys, just so you know that we're live now.
Okay.
So,
We don't
everyone,
care about live or not live.
well, if you do care, I'm just gonna make a quick announcement. So we're gonna get started in a couple minutes. Thank you all for watching the broadcast. We're just waiting for Ahmed Iradishi, and then we unfortunately will not be joined by Lakhdar because his car broke down, but we will be sure to bring him on at a later date. So just hold on for 2 to 3 minutes, and hopefully we'll get the program started. Should here, hold on. And here we go. Let's see. So again, if you're just tuning in, bear with us for 2 minutes. We're waiting for our last speaker to join the broadcast. I would also encourage you all, while you're waiting, to follow Mansoor and Muhammadu on social media. I
I
will.
think Maha. I think Ahmed has a technical problem. He couldn't sign on. Can you send him another link?
Yes.
He can see us,
انا
but
دخلت اسمي لكن ما يعني ما استطعت ادخل.
استخدمت الرابط.
I signed.
Can he sign in with can he use Chrome?
Okay, she just sent.
He's using his mobile.
Ah, okay.
Okay, can you see me now?
No.
Oh, I see you. I see you. Okay. Just 1 second.
Can you see him, Maha?
Yeah, I can see him. I just have to bring him onto the stage. Okay.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
see
Thank
me
you so
now?
much, Ahmed, for joining us. Yeah, we can see you.
Yes, we
Can
can
you
see
see?
it.
You can. Okay.
Yes. So we are gonna go ahead and get started. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Dr. Maha Hilal, and I'm the executive director of the Muslim Counterpublics Lab and the author of the book, Innocent Until Proven Muslim, Islamophobia, the War on Terror, and the Muslim Experience Since 9/11. Thank you for attending our event today, the aftermath of Guantanamo on Reckoning and Justice. As June Torture Awareness Month comes to a close, nothing could be more important from hearing survivors directly. I'm especially grateful to Ahmed, Muhammadu, and Mansoor, who Mansoor is not only speaking today, but also helped organize this event. And as I will talk about a little bit later, Mansoor is also the outreach coordinator for the Guantanamo Survivors Fund. I also want to give a special thank you to Rashida, who is our ASL interpreter, who you can see in the bottom right corner. So before we get into the program itself, I wanted to talk briefly about the Guantanamo Survivors Fund that was established this past April by Muslim Counterpublics Lab, No More Guantanamos, and Witness Against Torture. The fund was established in light of the growing chorus of survivor voices speaking to how difficult life after Guantanamo has really been. Whether it's lack of access to physical and mental health care, an inability to gain meaningful employment or pay rent, or precarious or no legal status, what is clear is that the United States government has mostly abandoned the men transferred from the prison, leaving them to fend for themselves. Recognizing this gap, the fund is raising and distributing funds on an ongoing basis to survivors with immediate needs. To date, we have raised over $16,000, and we are trying to raise $7,500 each month. During today's program, we want to raise $1,000 towards our July goal. Please see the donation link at the bottom of the screen. And I know we have Ahmed again, so let me put him on the broadcast.
Okay.
So this past weekend, on Sunday, June 26th, on the UN Day in support of survivors of torture, President Biden put out a statement saying, quote, "Today I reaffirm the United States' dedication to eliminating torture and supporting its victims. The United States has legally prohibited torture in all of its forms without exception," end quote. And later in the statement, he said, quote, "Today and every day, let us stand in solidarity with survivors of torture while calling on all nations to end this inhumane practice," end quote. And I bring up these quotes from Biden's statement because noticeably absent from the statement was any mention of Guantanamo or any other sites of torture that Muslims have been subjected to post 9/11. And when he talks about standing in solidarity with survivors of torture, that necessarily has to mean survivors of Guantanamo. So as we think about what justice and reckoning looks like for those who have survived Guantanamo, we must think about and continue to draw attention to and challenge the United States to meet its obligation to support survivors of Guantanamo who are survivors of torture. I'm really honored to have with me Mohammed Slahi, Ahmed Irashidi, and Mansour Adaifi. All of them have survived Guantanamo. They have spent various years in the prison behind bars. And I'm going to quickly read their bios. So as I mentioned quickly before, Mansour Adaifi is the outreach coordinator for the Guantanamo Survivors Fund. And he has been doing an amazing job of helping us connect with survivors and listening and learning about what their needs are. Mansour is also a writer, advocate, and former Guantanamo Bay prisoner. He spent nearly 15 years without charge in U.S. custody, including 8 years in solitary confinement. Originally from Yemen, he was released to Serbia in 2016. Since then, he has focused on continuing his education and writing about his experiences. Adaifi's writings have been published in the New York Times. These include In Our Prison on the Sea, Taking Marriage Classes at Guantanamo. He's the author of the essay, Did We Survive Torture?, which is included in the edited volume, Witnessing Torture, Perspectives of Torture Survivors and Human Rights Workers. And finally, he's the author of the incredible book, Don't Forget Us Here. And we will be putting throughout the program links to their books so you can purchase them. And we encourage you to read all of the survivors' books so you can gain more insight on the experience of Guantanamo. Next is Mohammed Slahi. who is a good friend of mine, an incredible writer, advocate, and former prisoner from Mauritania. He was detained at the US government's Guantanamo Bay prison without charge for approximately 14 years. Slahi wrote a memoir during his incarceration, which the government declassified in 2012 with numerous redactions. An international bestseller and the first memoir to be published during the author's detention at the Guantanamo Bay Naval Base, Guantanamo Diary was published in 2015. The memoir was used as the basis for a film starring Tahir Rahim, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Jodie Foster titled The Mauritanian, which was released in February 2021. And if you haven't watched it yet, I encourage you to watch it and share the movie with your friends. Slahi wrote 4 other books in detention, one of which he describes about being, quote, about finding happiness in a hopeless place, end quote. In 2021, his novel, The Actual True Story of Ahmed and Zarga, was published by Ohio University Press in its Modern African Writers series. At the time of this writing, Mohamedou is a writer in residence at Netherlands Toneel, a Dutch theater company. His main publications have been published under the name Mohamedou Slahi. And last, but certainly not least, we have with us Ahmed Rashidi, who is from Morocco. In 2013, his memoir, The General, The Ordinary Man Who Challenged Guantanamo, was published. I'm just going to put this screen. It was co-written by Gillian Slovo, and it details the events leading up to his capture and details about his personal life. For example, it explains that he was singled out for special attention from the guards and interrogators because he spoke English, and that they forced him to serve as an unofficial leader within the community of prisoners. It also refutes many of the assertions about Guantanamo. In a 2013 interview for New Media, Rashidi explained what his hunger strikes were like and stated that they were done simply to win the captives a return to less harsh conditions. In January 2021, the New York Review of Books published an open letter from Rashidi and 6 other formerly held in Guantanamo to newly inaugurated US President Biden, appealing to him to close the infamous prison. So as you can see, all of these men have accomplished so much despite being detained at Guantanamo. Again, I encourage all of you to buy, share, and read their books so you can learn more about the legacy of Guantanamo. So I'm going to be asking Mohamedou, Mansour, and Ahmed some questions about their experiences. And if you have any other questions you'd like for us to ask towards the end, please feel free to drop them on social media. So the first question for all of you is, can you tell us how long you were in Guantanamo and what your experience of being detained was like? And I recognize that this is a very big question, but if there are sort of ways you have found to describe your experiences and, you know, what made it especially difficult, if you could tell us about that, that would be great. So how about we start with Ahmed, if that's okay?
So, hi. Salam everybody. Hello, everybody. Nice to be with you here again. Today, Mansour, Mohamedou, and my 2 new friends, which I've seen for the first time, Maha and the other lady, I forgot her name. Hi, everybody. Well, as you know, I've spent 5.5 years in Guantanamo against my will, without charge and without trial. 4 out of those 5.5 years I've spent in isolation blocks, that is the punishment blocks. My experience for me was I have never experienced anything like it before, and I've never heard about anything like it before, because I was not prepared for such events. I was never prepared for it. It just happened just like that. It caught me off guard. And that's what really makes it special, and it really makes it very humane, because sometimes we come across events that we are not prepared for it. And my imprisonment against my will in those days after 9/11, it was very, very challenging, because I wasn't prepared at all. But my reaction to the event was very natural one. Things happened, unexpectedly. I didn't naturally. I just reacted. Just when somebody being kidnapped and taken to a very unknown place for him, and losing his freedom and losing everything. So that reaction, it all happens, unprecedented. It never occurred to me. It never, it's just like somebody catching a cat and holding and putting it in a cage, or trying to put that cat in a cage. Obviously, that cat will defend itself and it will fight the aggressor. And this is exactly what happened in my case. And that took me like 5.5 years to do. That's without details, of course. I'm talking without details. I'm just talking as a human experience, when you are confronted with something that that caught you off guard, in your life. But I didn't go into details yet. I'm just talking about my reaction to it, as something happened to me that I wasn't expecting.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing, Ahmed. And then, we'll be sure to ask, I have a lot of follow-up questions, so look forward to hearing more from you. Let's go with Mohamedou next. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience of being in Guantanamo, and how long you were there?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be on the same panel as my brother Mansour and my brother Ahmed. Both of them were very loud and in Guantanamo Bay. Who is doing these noises?
I think if you just mute whoever's not speaking, if you can mute your microphone while you're not speaking.
Mute everybody except me. I'm an Arab president. So anyway, I just want to tell you, the people who don't know Ahmed and who don't know Mansour, that those people are one of the most inspiring people because of the kindness of heart. I don't think I ever was with Ahmed Rashid except for one day. We were in Romeo Block. Romeo Block was the punishment block, and I was then in India Block all by myself. So I just want to repeat that it's just so a big honor to be with Ahmed and Mansour. And I want to tell you a story that happened. Actually, I never told Ahmed this story. And so what happened, we were invited to the city of Graz. And so And it was the first time that I actually meet Ahmed and Lakhdar. And so I was there, everybody is talking, everybody is happy. And then they took me to a room to translate for Lakhdar, because he's not confident enough to speak English. They gave me a paper to sign. And then he said, no, I explained to him. He said, no, because the paper said that they will give each of us some money, kind of money, And then Lakhdar said, no, I'm not signing. I was there and I felt so small and I wanted like the earth to open and swallow me right there. Because actually I did sign the paper without resistance, without saying anything. And it gets worse. The Austrian girl looked at her friends and said in German, which I understand, wow, his friend did the same thing. Ahmed did the same thing. And they did not even like talk to each other. I was the only one among the three of them who signed the paper. And I was thinking, okay, I need to repair this because I really felt really ashamed. And then I said, I need to go back and take the paper. And then I was thinking, I'm old. Oh, Ahmed, it's not really stable. That's not fun. Ahmed, are you back?
He keeps getting disconnected and then reconnects. So
No,
we'll
but
bring him back.
anyway. So I was thinking, I need to repair this. So, and then, but I said to myself, Muhammadu, you are not Ahmed, you are not Lakhdar, you are a person who signs the paper. And you have just to live with that. And this is not like, I have to understand those people they have families and they are struggling, They have problem, financially. Everybody has problems, financially. And that's not the only thing. Ahmed and Lakhdar, they kept fighting over paying the bill of the host, And I'm sometimes, I try to pay like a little bit, but they get like very angry. And so I said, you know what? I'm afraid of you guys because Ahmed is really big guy, and I'm rather like small. What is 172 centimeter in feet or whatever? So I'm not too many feet. That's just to describe it. So I just want to tell you that I learned from them kindness of heart, and at the end of it, Ahmed like invited everybody to his city and he wants to host them in his beautiful restaurant, including former interrogators, including former guards. And we really want, to emphasize that our brother Mansour cannot travel, and and we need him in Morocco too, and we need to be all of us. We need to be there and support, this beautiful action, kind of kindness and forgiveness. You want to know my story? It was Ramadan, very short, and I was having fun. I was going to iftar. Two policemen, mukhabarat, came to my house, said, you need to come shortly with us. I was very scared. My mom was very scared. I could see fear in her eyes. She told me what they want. I said, I don't know. And then they took me. I took a shower, changed. They took me. I could see my mother praying with tasbih, prayer beat, very, very like shaking and praying. And after 200 meters, my mom disappeared when the car turned right. I never saw her again. Many years would go by until they came to me and told me two things. My mom passed on and my brother passed on, rahimahullah. I was in so much pain, like, at first, when this news, I couldn't hear anything. It's like in your ears, like buzz. And then they brought me, when my brother died, they brought me a priest because the imam was kicked out of the camp. They brought me a priest from Sudan, South Sudan. I don't know Ahmed Mansour. I wanted to talk to this. Maybe you met him. And he started to read from the Bible to me. And I know the Bible. I read the Bible. And I couldn't explain to the pain. I spent in Guantanamo Bay, between Guantanamo Bay and other secret prison, 15 years. I spent in house arrest, illegal house arrest, about 5 years. I was never charged with any crime, and I just want to emphasize that I forgive everyone, Mauritanian, Americans, Jordanian, everybody who was involved in my abuse. I forgive them, for the sake of Allah, for the sake of humanity. All I want is for the people in Guantanamo Bay to be released, and the people who are released to be helped, and in their life. That's all we ask.
Thank you so much, Mohamedou, for sharing your experience and sharing some stories from Guantanamo that really help us give an idea of what it was like. And last but not least, we have our friend Mansour. Mansour, you should sing a song for us first and then answer the question.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يا هلا ومرحبا، أرحب وحياكم الله. First of all, I would like to thank you all, especially to Maha, brother Ahmad and Salah, and everyone. And it warmed my heart to see you guys still working for the closure of Guantanamo, fighting for justice and fighting the injustice. So Guantanamo story is really one of the biggest story in the 21st century, because the most powerful country that preach democracy, human rights, equality, you name it, they do not consider Guantanamo survivor victims. Although Obama said, we torture some folks. Although we saw the CIA torture report. Although, I mean, you name it, evidence, the children at Guantanamo, around 60 children. We talk about the death at Guantanamo. We are talking about now 20 years of indefinite detention. So it's not just my experience. It is experience of the humanity. I mean, what I'm shocking at is the silence from the international community toward Guantanamo. No condemnation, no calling for the closure of Guantanamo. It's like that silence gives some kind of satisfaction about what happened there. Our experience at Guantanamo isn't like an ordinary prison. It was a place that created outside of the law, outside of the justice system, a place that was turned into America's battle lab, experimenting on prisoners. I remember brother Ahmad. I used to be with him in November Blood. I remember the scene all the time. When they used to search our genitals, the secret our Holy Quran. Ahmad, Jazakallah khair, one of the most outstanding brothers to fight for injustice, to fight for the brothers. I remember that day when the colonel himself brought the FCE team or the riot team to Ahmad. When I saw Ahmad, he was bent onto the wall with the FCE team wearing only orange short. That's it. Because he was protesting the brutality in the camp. I remember that day. I was on the ground. Ahmad was on the brother Ahmad was. I think I remember that. So, if you talk about the experience, I mean, a lot of stories. I can tell you, we experience death, we experience lossless. Imagine people who spend 15 years, lost 15 years. It's not just 15 years sitting an ordinary place. It's 15 years of torture, abuse, daily abuse, disconnected from the world. This is Guantanamo. 20 years of injustice, 20 years of oppression, 20 years of torture, 20 years of indefinite detention, 20 years of lawlessness. And yesterday I get a message, one of the families who was talking to his brother in Guantanamo. He said, we are afraid My brother won't make it. He has a problem with the administration about some of his artwork work, and he tried to leave Guantanamo with some paintings. You know, a man put his memories, his tears, his secrets, his sweat, his blood in those paintings. Yet the government said you have no right to take them. So, and he got an argument with them, and I didn't know what's going to happen. So basically, until that day, the torture still happening at Guantanamo, injustice still happening at Guantanamo, and Guantanamo becomes a symbol of the torture and abuse around the world. Yesterday I was reading a tweet by the Chinese ambassador in Kabul. He was talking about the last the one of the recent release to Afghanistan. He was criticizing Guantanamo. China itself was part of Guantanamo. What they do is even worse than Guantanamo. So even Guantanamo is being used by tyrant to try to also fight back. So everyone uses Guantanamo for either political gain, like Republicans or Democrats. And watching all of that, honestly, it's still hurting me, and it's still being tortured because where is the humanity? Nobody talk about the human being in the detention. The 74 years old still at Guantanamo, the youngest detainee, not only like 35 years old, was detained at 16 years old. So when you talk about my experience is our experience. And everyone is touched by Guantanamo. Whether you are in Guantanamo or not, you are touched by Guantanamo, because Guantanamo tests our humanity. And Guantanamo now become an idea, of indefinite detention, of abuse, of torture, and the absence of injustice and accountability. This is Guantanamo. Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No, thank you so much, Mansoor. And I really always appreciate your stories about community and brotherhood at Guantanamo, because those are the stories we don't hear about, and it's really important for the world to know. So, my next question for all of you is if you can talk about how did Guantanamo change you, and how did you survive the experience of Guantanamo? So maybe let's start with Muhammadu this time.
uh, I just like to concentrate on the more positive changes than the negative changes, because you get older and weaker and broken, and you lose like family members, and everywhere you are rejected. There is no door. I just was talking to Mansour, and he want to volunteer for the Red Cross, and they wouldn't accept him because he was in Guantanamo Bay. That tells you everything. So I want to leave this, and I tell you, I was positively surprised with the amount of support that we received from non-Muslims, and this completely changed my view, because I was lived in a very small like community, even like in Europe, the Muslim community, and I was completely ignoring the rest of the world. And we really need the rest of the world, because let's face it, they are the one who can help us the most, because they are not the usual suspect. Because if a Muslim goes to Guantanamo Bay, they will be like spied on, their life will be like ruined, and so, and this like make me look like a more universal view, like it's because this like concept of Muslim, it's just rahmat lil alameen, this mercy for the whole universe. And this mercy I felt from all those non-Muslim who helped us, who are still helping us, and I just want to send them my love from here. And and we just need to be more working together with them, and expanding, our community to also to non-Muslim who really believe in the same kind of human dignity, and the rule of law, because we benefit from this more than any community, in the world, because we are between a rock and a hard place, between the dictatorial regime, and I don't want to use dictatorial, but authoritarian regime where the rule of law is very weak, and the big powers. When I say the big power, it's not only the US. China is a big power, Russia is a big power, who are interested in expanding their empire and not so much for respecting human rights. I think when I have to say one change, is this change that I have now a global, view, and a welcoming view to people who are not Muslims and who are not like me.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. And I appreciate your reframing of the question because, all of you do talk about, the positive things that have happened. And, all of us are so grateful to be able to hear your stories and of survival and struggle. And, you're an inspiration to all of us. So thank you for that. Mansoor, can you talk to us a little about, again, the same thing? How did the experience change you? And, whether you want to talk about positive or whatnot, and how did you survive?
First of all, Guantanamo, of course, shaped our life, our personalities, become part of our life, whether like it or not. I mean, Guantanamo in our DNA anyway. So, you know, and also let's see one of the positive Guantanamo brought us together, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. Guards, detainees at Guantanamo had to work together sometimes. Out of Guantanamo, now we are working together. So one of the positives that Guantanamo also brought us together to fight the injustice, not just in Guantanamo, was in other places too. Survive at Guantanamo, I don't think we can say we survived so far until, I don't know, surviving have a different meaning to be honest. Like, but the question, have we survived? Because Guantanamo hasn't ended yet. For me, Guantanamo hasn't ended yet. For many other former Guantanamo prisoners, Guantanamo hasn't ended yet. Because I'm not trying to be negative here, but I'm trying to talk facts. About surviving in a way. It was Allah Subhanahu wa Taala mercy first of all. Then, secondly, was the brotherhood, the friendship that we created at Guantanamo among the brothers, supporting each other, taking care of each other, fighting for each other, hoping, working as a whole, as a group, facing whatever they threw at us. Tried. No, I'm not gonna say I don't care or doesn't bother me. No, if anyone got hurt, I get hurt at the same time. Wallahi, remember, Jazakallah khair, brother Ahmad. I mean, as I told you, he was one of the most outstanding brothers at Guantanamo, and he suffered a lot, a lot. So, but surviving takes, it's not easy to survive at Guantanamo. It's not that easy. So, have I survived? I cannot answer that question because we still have scars in our souls. Nobody can see them, only us. At the same time, Guantanamo still hasn't left us yet. But one of the positives is now we see, Alhamdulillah, there is a lot of support. There's a lot calling for. Now we need more. It's not enough, but we need more for such event, calling for the closure of Guantanamo, stopping the torture. It's not just in Guantanamo, even in other places, because Guantanamo become an idea, become an ideal, become some kind of a pandemic that happened almost like everywhere now. So Guantanamo and the whole, yeah, shaped our personality, way of thinking, because 15 years, of course. But there's a gap always, I still mentally and psychologically feel I am 20. Sorry, this is how I feel. So when I start studying my college, when I was looking to those 19, 18 or 19 years old kids, I thought I was one of them. I tried to social with them, like, they're like, people, nobody wants to talk to you because, of course, Guantanamo at the same, the color, or whatever, and so on. So, like, what I'm doing? But you have to go through it. You have to live it in order to catch up with the world, in order to understand your life, your purpose, and so on. It takes time and time. But for now, you know, I can tell you we're stuck in between. We are not at Guantanamo, but at the same time, we are not free from Guantanamo. And this is the worst, really. I could say, like, sometime I told him, okay, I need to go. There is a time when, like, I need to go back to Guantanamo because at Guantanamo, at least I was there. I found myself there. But now you cannot find yourself. Like, you live in uncertainty, fear, threats, and so on.
Hmm. Thank you for sharing, Mansoor. And that's your voice has been so critical, not just in the conversation globally around Guantanamo, but also when we think about and do the work around the Survivors Fund, because we are trying to address the harms of Guantanamo. And I just want to Ahmed is back, so I want to give him a chance to answer the question as well. So, Ahmed, again, the question is, how did the experience in detention at Guantanamo change you, and how did you survive?
Yeah, thank you. I would like to start with the second part of the question, the survival. Uh, as I said, as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't ready for for the experience, and I wasn't ready for the event. So my survival, first of all, started from, I would say, three or four elements, main elements that helped me survive. One of the main elements, as you all know, is the faith, is my faith. Knowing that I've been tested and knowing that I've been there for a reason. So this part of my faith, as you all know, helps me survive and helps me resist and hold on to it. Now, having said that, there is other elements. One of them is, I would say, my positive stubbornness. I was very stubborn, very extremely stubborn in the face of the wrongdoing of the soldiers, in the face of the brutality of the soldiers. I was extremely stubborn. And I think I would call it a positive stubbornness because it really helped me survive and it really gave me the strength knowing that I was a witness. I always felt that I was a witness. I was witnessing all this human right violation. I was witnessing all this breach of the rule of law, all this brutality. I was witnessing the dehumanization. I was witnessing the degradation of human beings in the hands of those who call themselves democratic, those who call themselves the promoters of the rule of law, the promoters of human rights, and the custodians of human rights. So I was always criticizing them. I was always questioning them, saying to them, you know what you are doing is wrong. You know what you are doing is wrong, is illegal. And this criticizing and, all the time standing up to their brutality, to their violation, and being stubborn, just as I said, just like that cat. If you take a cat and try to put it in a cage, the cat will not keep quiet. It will defend herself. So this is exactly what happened. I was always defending myself. I didn't want to allow it to happen. I didn't want to allow somebody to take away my freedom for no reason. So the worst thing that could happen to a human being is when somebody takes away his freedom. Suddenly, somebody will come and take away your freedom. That means taking away your life, taking away your 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 emotion, taking away your loved ones, taking away your life. So you're not gonna allow this to happen. So this is exactly what happened to me. I wasn't ready to let go and let them do harm to me and treat me like an insect. So I think one of the elements is this positive stubbornness that was in me. I was always standing for the aggression. That's really helped me because I was like recharging my battery. It was always giving me strength. Otherwise, if I had gave up and just sit there in the corner of my cell and keep quiet, I think I would have ended up in a mental hospital. So that is a very, very important point. So when you don't give up, when you speak up, when you speak out, when you stand up to the aggressors and say, that's wrong, you're not supposed to do that, that really gives you strength and helps you survive. And this is just what Mansour says is the story of survival is continuous. It still goes on. I mean, I'm a free man now. Yes, I'm a free man now, but I still think what was done to me is wrong. And those people who did wrong to me and to many hundreds of people, they're still at large. They will never be held accountable. So until that happens, we have to continue our survival and our fighting for uh, for justice and for those people who violate human rights and the uh, dismantle the rule of law. They have to be held accountable. And this, I mean, the story continues. That's why we're here today. I think this is not an issue that has to do only with the prisoners of Guantanamo or ex-prisoners of Guantanamo and their families. This is an issue that has to do with everybody who believes in human rights, everybody who believes in the rule of law and freedom. I'm telling them this is your case as well. This is your fight because your principles that you stand for, that you believe in, which is human rights and freedom, is being provoked. It's being provoked. So you have to do something about it. If you really believe in human rights and the rule of law, well, I'm telling you that there is a very powerful uh, president from a very powerful government, which is the United States of America. They not suppose, or rather, we are not. We we should make sure that nobody is above the law. Nobody should be above the law. Even no country should be above the law, even if the country is the United States of America. And no person, again, should be above the law, even if that person is the president of the United States. And this is our challenge, as I said. This is should be our issue. Everybody who believes in human rights and justice, it's his issue. It's our matter. It's our thing. So we should come together and challenge them. Yeah, and we should hold those people accountable, and we should put an end to Guantanamo. Guantanamo should not exist. Should never be there. It should never exist. But yet, it's been 20 long years that it has been there, and our voices, the voices of the free people around the world is never been heard. It shows that their voices doesn't matter. As long as Guantanamo is open, it means for those people who believe or claim to believe in human rights and the rule of law, well, let me tell you something, your voice doesn't matter, because somebody out there is provoking it, and somebody out there is breaking the rules. And I want to go back to my I've talked about my survival, and then I went a bit further to talk about the the, the accountability and the end of Guantanamo. But I want to go back to the other part of the question. Did it change me? The experience? Well, it certainly did. It changed me. The experience of Guantanamo, 5.5 years of Guantanamo, it did change me. But I don't want my jailers to take the credit for it. I want to make that sure. I become a better person, and no thanks to my jailers. When I say a better person, it doesn't mean that I was a bad person, now I'm a good person. But I'm talking in terms of appreciating life more and not taking things for granted. I mean, a lot of people who never been tested, who never been in prison, or have never been, uh, their freedom taken away from them. For those people, they really don't know you know, they don't know much about life, because when you lose your freedom, when you lose everything, only then, when you start to appreciate life, when you start to appreciate very simple things in life. I will give you an example, just like the light, the darkness of night. When we go to bed at night, all of us, we need to do, just press the button and turn the light off and go to sleep. So this luxury of press the button, turn the light off, and having tried to get some sleep, I didn't have that for 5.5 years in Guantanamo. And some people for 15, and others, they still for 20 long years. They did not have not one night sleep in peace. I mean, in a dark night. They didn't experience a dark night for 20 long years. And it's for you to imagine the impact, the emotional impact, the psychological impact on the human being, having to have a light rejected on them 24 hours a day. It's day and night is the same thing. It's the same light. So these very simple things in life that I'm talking about, and this is one of them. It will make you a better person in terms of being grateful. You know, being grateful to simple things in life. And as I mentioned, this is no thanks to Maid Jails. I mean, I don't want Maid Jails to get me wrong. And there's a lot of things. And as a person, before 9/11, I used to believe in human rights, and I used to believe in this flourishing democracy and human rights and so on. But after 9/11, I was shocked. So I became a different person, because before 9/11, I used to believe in human rights as everybody believed in human rights before 9/11. But after 9/11 and after my imprisonment, I faced the reality that there's no such a thing as human rights, and there's no such a thing as the rule of law. When it comes to America, when it comes to the powerful, the most influential power, when it comes to the president of America, you know, human rights and the rule of law. He's above all that. I mean, it doesn't concern him. And so this is something that I've learned, and it's a fact. And it's there for all of us as a challenge
Right.
that we're still facing.
Well, thank you, Ahmed. And it's also important for all of us to hear these stories of resistance as well, because in the beginning, right, there weren't a lot of stories from those detained at Guantanamo about what the experience was like and about resistance in particular, because there was just no access to the voices of the men. So, I think resistance is a very big part of what we need to know about the experience at Guantanamo. And as you all continue to resist Guantanamo, even after detention. So I have two questions for you. I'm going to ask you to be a little brief, two more questions, because we have some questions from the audience. So I'll ask the first question and get a round of answers, and then the last question. And before I ask the last two questions, I just want to put in another plug for the Guantanamo Survivors Fund. We do want to raise $1,000 during this event and tonight towards our July goal of raising $7,500. So please help us meet this goal. As you can see and as you can hear, the need for funds and support post Guantanamo continues to be great. So my next question for all of you is, can you tell us what exactly the government told you when they transferred you about where you were going, what you would be provided, and what restrictions would be placed on you, if they told you anything about this at all? And let's start with Mansour.
Oh boy, I need to write a book just about that. My story. It is actually I refused to leave Guantanamo. Believe it or not, I was forcibly released or forcibly sent out from Guantanamo when I learned that I'm going to Serbia. As you know, like Serbian history with Muslims, what happened in the 1990s when they commit genocide. So I refused to leave, and they told me you had no choice, either to go there or rot in jail. Then the Obama administration issued a new law: anyone accepted by any country who will be sent there, regardless. I sent letter to U.S. government, State Department, to my lawyers, to the wherever. State Department, they sent me special envoy, a woman. Her name is Heather. She said, I came here specially to talk to you. I said, okay. She said, you will be treated like a free man in the new country. They told me there is no detainee was given a budget for college education except you. They want to to. Then they told me, you'll be free. This is there was a program for rehabilitation, reintegration, and all kind of beautiful things. So I still refused because it was scary to come to Serbia. Then the ICRC, the Red Cross, the ICRC, the International Committee of Red Cross, they told me, so I came here just to ask you a question. Do you think there will be a threat in your life in Serbia? As I told him, will you and American government guarantee my safety there? He said no. He said, I'm sorry, I have to tell you, you had no choice. So the promises, when we get in the country, we were treated differently. We were treated like a terrorist. Some of the brothers were hooded, gagged, and dragged to jail. And this is the difficulties we are facing now, because the broken promises. And some of the brothers were sent to another jail, like in the United Arab Emirates, for 5 years. Some of the brothers were released in 2005 and 6, yet they are still in the Saudi jail. And nobody is talking about them. US government has done nothing. The Saudi government doesn't care. So I don't take much of your time.
Thank you, Mansour. That's devastating, and really shows how callously the U.S. has treated Guantanamo. Mohamedou, can you tell us what the government told you about when you were transferred? What they told you where you would be going, what you would be provided and what restrictions would be placed on you.
I just want the audience to understand that the government does not share too much uh, about our condition. They only tell us where we are going to be transferred. And in my case, the Red Cross came to me and they told me I was going to be transferred to Mauritania because there was another country who accepted me, uh, where my brother lived in Europe. But they said no because they wanted me control. And I just want to emphasize that we are not happy with the way our countries conduct business because they are not democracies. We are not. When we talk about the lack of the rule of law, when America is treating us this way, we are not happy with our countries either. You know, we want our country to respect the rule of law and to protect us. You know, and so that's what they told me, and I told them I accept anything outside Guantanamo Bay. I accept. And later on, when I came to Mauritania, I applied for my passport after, I don't know, several days. And they told me, no, you cannot have a passport. I said, why? They said, we cannot explain to you. This is the kind of callousness, you know, and the lack of the rule of law we are living in. And I was in communication with Mansour, and he was also complaining about, you know, the condition he was in Serbia, and he is right about that. I told him, brother, I cannot have my passport in my country. Can you believe that? And but I just want to say that not stopping and not like being shut down is very important because you know, Maha, you were with me on this and you helped me and you wrote article, you know, and it took us 3 years until I get my passport. And so those are, we only know about those secret, you know, condition when we try to resume our lives. Like there is no passport. Then also, I also discovered in my case that the US sent European countries never to accept me to come to their countries, you know. And I think, Maha, you had some access to the secret letter that Der Spiegel discovered that the US sent to other countries never to accept me. And, you know, and the rule of law always wins. I'm so happy that the Netherlands here has accepted me, you know, and they said, we don't care about Guantanamo Bay. You know, Guantanamo Bay is against the rule of law and we don't accept it. And that's all I want to say, actually.
Thank you for sharing your stories, both of you. I mean, it's yeah, it's devastating, and I, feel really sad that you've been treated this way after so many years of detention and torture at Guantanamo. While we're waiting for Ahmed, okay, here he is again. Ahmed, and then can you also answer the same question about, what you were told when you were transferred?
Hi. Are you talking about my government or are you talking about the US government? You're talking about my government?
The U.S. government, what they
The
told
US
you when you were
government.
being.
Well, 2 years into my imprisonment, I spent 5.5 years. So 2 years after my imprisonment, I was called by the CIA. They called me to the interrogation room and they provided me with the postcards from Tangier, from my city. They showed me the postcard and they said, "What do you think?" I said, "Oh, great." I said, "That's my city, you know." And they said, "We are taking you there." I said, "Great, I can't wait." And they said, "Aren't you scared?" I said, "Scared of what?" They said, "They're going to torture you." I said, "What? You're talking about torture? The torture is happening here in Guantanamo." And I said, "My country doesn't do torture." And I said, and he went mad. The guy went mad. He was very angry. He was trying to intimidate me. It was trying to provoke me. So he went mad and he disappeared. After 3.5 years, okay, I was told I'm going to be released. So I'm talking about 3.5 years later. I didn't believe them at first. I said maybe they're playing games because they did that before. So they said that you are leaving. You're going to Morocco. And the interviewer said, is there any reason? I want you to listen to this. They said, is there any reason why you should not go back to Morocco? And I was laughing. I said, what do you mean, is there any reason? I said, I've been here for 5.5 years illegally. I want to go back to my family. And now you're telling me, is there any reason why you shouldn't go back? And a week later, I didn't believe them. I didn't believe that I was going to be released. A week later, I was visited by
Okay. He'll be back in just a second. In the meantime, again, please consider donating to the Guantanamo Survivors Fund. I think we've gotten 1 or 2 donations, so we'd appreciate any additional support that you can provide. And here's Ahmed again. Ahmed, were you done answering the question? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sorry. A week later, I was visited by the Red Cross, and they told me that they are going to transfer you to Morocco. And I want you to hear this. The Red Cross telling me is, do you have any concern why you should, if you have any concern, if you don't want to go back to Morocco, if you have any concern, please tell us. And I went mad. I said, what are you talking about? I said, I've been here 5.5 years, going through degradation, torture, illegal detention, and you've never intervened for 5.5 years as a Red Cross. All you've been doing is bringing letters like a postman. And now you're telling me, as now I'm going back to my family, you are telling me if I was worried, if I may face some torture back home. I said, the torture is not back home in Morocco. Torture is in Guantanamo, is here. And you didn't do nothing about it.
That's rough. Yeah, that's really rough. Thank you all again for sharing your painful stories. And, I know that you all speak frequently on your experiences, and I can't imagine how difficult that is. But you share it with so much heart, and we're all indebted to you because you're able to share and willing to share your stories. The last question I'm going to ask before we get to, I think there's 2 questions from the audience, is what would justice look like for you? And I don't know, Mohammed or Mansour, do either of you want to go first?
Don't you want to go first?
Sure.
Oh, you know, justice or no justice? Justice is not a choice. It must be justice. When there is no justice, injustice will take its place. That what happened here. There's no in between. Justice is, in our case, Guantanamo case. I'm talking about there should be some kind of acknowledgement, apologizing, compensation, and accountability for those who established Guantanamo, what about the torture that happened in Guantanamo, a crime against humanity that happened at Guantanamo, really in simple words.
Ahmed, what about you? What would justice look like for you? Oh, I think your microphone is off.
Question, please.
Oh, sure. So the question is, what would justice look like for you?
Justice for me is to allow people the ex-prisoners and the current prisoners in Guantanamo, they should be allowed to challenge the U.S. government in court, as a U.S. government is the promoter of the rule of law and the guardian of the rule of law. I think they should allow the ex-prisoners and the current prisoners to challenge the U.S. government in court, and that's one thing. The other thing is Guantanamo has to be shut.
Ahmed, you're frozen. I'm not sure if you can hear us. So we'll give you a second. Okay, 1 second. I think he is coming back. Okay, Ahmed, did you have more to add?
I just wanted to add that Guantanamo need to be shut. Okay, Guantanamo need to be shut. For me, the ex guards, the guards who who were look who were taking care of me in Guantanamo as made jailers, those guards, I don't have nothing against them because I know they have been used just like us. They've been used as tools. But the people who are responsible, their generals and George Bush, Rumsfeld, and Cheney, even those people, they need to be held accountable. I know that Rumsfeld has died, but they need to be held accountable. And that's it. And Guantanamo needs to be shut. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing what justice looks like for you. Obviously, the United States has made zero strides towards justice. And so, for all of us in the audience, it's really important for us to listen to the voices of survivors and think about how do we ensure that they get justice. So, there's a question on YouTube. I put it up on the screen in case all of you cannot see it. The question is, what is the most important advocacy/work that can be done today to support current or former prisoners of Guantanamo? So maybe Mohammed, we'll start with you.
So I just want to remind everyone that Mansour, Ahmed, and me, we are talking to you because we are privileged. We have the means to talk to you, and we are not under the restriction not to talk to you. And we are authors, a movie producer. There are detainees who cannot talk to you. They're intimidated, and they just cannot talk to you. Or some of them are even in prison. Not even to mention those who are still in Guantanamo Bay. We are talking to you also because we are survivors. We survived. Gul Rahman did not survive. He died in the cold room that I described in my book. And Dali War did not survive. He was beaten to death in the same prison that I wrote about in background. And we know about, at least according to the reports, about 20 people, I don't know the names, who disappeared, who just disappeared. So, and I mean, we appreciate anything, any article, you write, any letter you write to your congressman and urge them to close Guantanamo Bay, because Guantanamo Bay does not reflect beautiful American people. I can testify to the fact that I met so many beautiful American people who believe in human rights, who believe in dignity, and those people don't deserve Guantanamo Bay.
Thank you so much, Mohamedou. Ahmed, what is the most important work and advocacy that can be done to support current or former Guantanamo prisoners? Oh, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, to support the current Guantanamo prisoners or ex Guantanamo prisoners is to try first of all to put an end to Guantanamo. That's the main. That's the first breakthrough. We have to make that breakthrough to have to put an end to Guantanamo, and then people should be allowed, like Mansour and many others, should be allowed to have this passport, should be allowed to have the freedom of movement, and they should be allowed to have the choice whether to go back to their country or to choose a place where they can reboot their life and start again. That's very, very important. And for those who are still behind bars in Guantanamo, they should be released. If there is any of those who there is they committed any crime, they should be put to trial. You know, if there's any evidence against them, they should go to court. And those who have no evidence against them, they should be released and they should be given the choice, the place where they should live. And very, very importantly, we should, again, I mentioned this before, again, we should see those people responsible be held.
Well, thank you, Ahmed. I think he'll probably rejoin us in just a second. We had a question for Mansour. Actually, sorry, I want to go back to the last question for Mansour. So, how can people support current and former prisoners? And you've been an incredible support with the Guantanamo Outreach Fund as outreach coordinator. But what are, how can they support the fund, and how can they support other efforts that you're working on as well? Oh, you're on mute. Okay.
So, regard Guantanamo, I think it is really important to keep Guantanamo on the surface of the media, sending letters, campaigning, protesting, whatever we can do that can help, because the media really has a huge impact on the Guantanamo case. As former Guantanamo detainees, I mean, like as I told you, Guantanamo hasn't left us yet, and meaning living Guantanamo, that doesn't mean you're free. So as you know, we have been working together on the Guantanamo Survivor Fund. There is some prisoners who need financial support because some of them end up like homeless. We have like few cases who died of medical, they couldn't get a proper treatment, so they end up dying. We have a brother who died last year of COVID, and the government, just let his family they told them they have to leave their place where they stay, and they have listed children. There is brothers who need legal support, people who are like, they don't have any legal status. They cannot work, they cannot study, they cannot, one of them actually 8 years married, he's not allowed to meet his wife. So they're like, mostly this is the case we're working in, like financial support, legal support. We, as you know, we have created this Guantanamo Survival Fund. That the way we can like facilitate, take case by case, how we can help that person, what should be done with this case, how we can manage this case. But we are doing the government work, basically. It's not a lot. I don't think we will be able to help everyone and everything, but at least we could do something, at least.
Thank you so much, Mansour, and thank you again for all your work with the fund. We could not have done it without you, and we can't continue without you. So the next question is, well, for both Mohamedou and you, Mansour. So one person wants to see pictures of your traveling, Natalia Rivera Scott. So I'm going to just stick a note for her to follow you on Twitter and Facebook. But if you want to speak, we'll just elaborate on this. If you want to speak to perhaps your ability to travel at this stage, what it
Yeah.
looks like, and what are the restrictions.
Tell Natalia I'm going to come to visit her. I'm serious.
So Mansour, sorry, Mohammed, do you want to start quickly about where your travel restrictions are at now?
Uh, First, I want to give a very big shout out to Natalia Rivera Scott. She is from the greatest country in the world, i.e., Mexico, and she is really a very big support to Guantanamo Bay. Since day one, she contacted me. We are very good friends, and wherever there is trouble, she is there.
Mm.
So she is like supporting all these, human rights causes. And
Yeah, she has done a lot of work for Guantanamo, honestly, like support and reaching out,
yes,
tweeting, and doing a lot of work.
yes. And today, I am in the most beautiful country in the world, that is the Netherlands. And I'm working as a writer in residence, just like Maha mentioned in the beginning. And everybody of our supporter who is in the Netherlands, just like write me a message or something. And my travel restrictions is individual countries. Some countries don't allow me, and some countries allow me. So
And Mansour, can you talk a little bit about, and I know part of the answer, but can you tell us about your travel restrictions and obviously your
Yeah,
quest
my
to be.
my travel restriction, I cannot leave the city unless if I submit a request 3 days period where, why, when we're going to meet. This is what happened here. But honestly, honestly, I'm not following these rules because it just doesn't make any sense. But also, I'm not allowed to have my own passport or travel document. For the last 5 years, my lawyers work with the Yemen embassy in USA, but no any kind of result. I have
Mm.
contacted like around like 7 embassies around the world, and it seems like there is no. Actually we have like two government in Yemen. I contacted them too. So basically, they they make it really hard to get a passport or travel documents, so you cannot travel, and no explanation why. There is no simple explanation. It's because especially when you become like someone who was well known in the media or some have influence and so on. They don't like that. Then I'm being called like a white collar terrorist. So
Mm.
this a new name.
Well, always let us know, of course, if we can support you in terms of getting travel documents, and any other support you might need. So we're gonna close out. I'm hoping Ahmed can rejoin us as we close. But I want to thank both of you, Mohamedou and Mansour, for always being willing to share your words. I'm so honored and privileged always to be in community with you, to be in conversation with you, and as a Muslim myself, I feel such a strong sense of solidarity with you, and the pain that you experience, I feel as well because I care about you both very much. Um, I want to just, I'm glad Ahmed could rejoin us. So I want to just close, especially with a message for those who are, in the United States and who are American citizens, to really step up and think about ways we can support survivors from Guantanamo, calling on the U.S. government specifically to acknowledge the harm that Guantanamo has caused, to provide support, actual support, meaningful support to survivors of torture, to acknowledge wrongdoing, and provide compensation, as much as it calls on other countries to reckon and address their legacy and ongoing torture, the United States must do the same. So I really encourage anyone who is, especially an American citizen, to really be active in campaigning members of Congress, local representatives, whoever it is that will help you take action to support survivors of torture. For me, as a Muslim, and I hope this appeals to other Muslims as well, there is a hadith or a saying from the Prophet Muhammad, alayhi salatu wasalam, who says the believers in their mutual kindness, compassion, and sympathy are just like one body. When one of the limbs suffers, the whole body comes to its defense. So for Muslims, please, please, please get involved in closing Guantanamo, in ending torture, and supporting our Muslim brothers. It is our obligation as Muslims to address justice. And these are our brothers who have suffered, and it is up to us to come to their defense. And finally, for those of you watching, please again give to the Guantanamo Survivors Fund. During this broadcast, we have raised $610, and we'd very much love to raise $1,000 by the end of today. I will end by just asking Mohamedou, Mansour, and hopefully Ahmed, if you have any parting words that you want to share with the audience. Ahmed, I was just saying if any of you have any parting words that you want to share with the audience.
Again, can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, sure. Do you have any parting words that you want to share with the audience? Anything you want to leave the audience with?
I would like to go back to those 20 years of people not allowed to sleep in peace in the darkness of night for 20 long years. I mean, I've given that example just as a very tiny example, very small example, is just to make them think deeper. And 20 long years, people living with shackles and cuffs in their hands. For 20 years, people, they have not been allowed to enjoy the freedom and the universe, to see the sky and to enjoy freedom. I mean, for 20 years, I mean, it's a very, very long time for those people to be behind bars without charge and without trial.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Mansour, any parting words?
My last words is, Guantanamo case become, people think like it's old. That's mean old story, doesn't have to, doesn't deserve the attention. I think we should continue, please fight for the closure of Guantanamo, help supporting the Guantanamo prisoners. And at the same time, please remember there is like still 36 men trapped at Guantanamo, 19 of them cleared for release. And by fighting for the closure of Guantanamo, we are fighting for the injustice that happen around the world. For fighting also for Guantanamo, we are fighting for American justice system that have been abused and misused. And by talking about the torture in Guantanamo, we are not talking about American people or American life. We are talking about a group of people who misused and abused the power that entrusted to them. I guess I need people to understand this. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair. And Mohamedou?
We love you and keep supporting us. Without you, I wouldn't be a free man and wouldn't be a free man. And support Maha. And thank you, Maha, for everything you do for us. And we love you.
Oh, thank you so much, Mohamedou. I love you all so much. And I'm really, really grateful to all of you again for being willing to share your truth and doing it so many times so the world can know about what happened to you at Guantanamo. Finally, I want to give a special thanks to Rashida, our ASL interpreter, who has been with us for many months now and who's been doing an incredible job supporting us with our events in order to make them accessible. So thank you again, everyone. And please finally consider donating and sharing the link and the word about the Guantanamo Survivors Fund. Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum.